All right, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are diving deep into something truly profound, and let's be honest, often really misunderstood. We're talking about Tantra, but we're not going to look at it as some kind of religion. Instead, we're going to explore it for what it truly is, a practical, powerful science for human evolution.
So let's start with this really powerful idea from the ancient Rudrayamala Tantra. It basically says that under normal circumstances, we all start out kind of animal-like, driven by our basic instincts. But, and this is the amazing part, when that spiritual thirst awakens in us, we can become heroic. And when we're fully established in that heroic vibe, we can actually become like gods or devatas. It's a pretty radical idea, right?
So that just begs the question, doesn't it? How in the world do you get from that state of animality all the way to divinity? And this isn't just some philosophical daydream. Tantra lays it out as a practical, totally achievable journey. This transformation, well, it's the absolute core of the whole science.
Okay, so let's get into it. To really understand this journey, we've got to be clear on what Tantra actually is. Forget all the mystical stuff for a second. Think of it as a systematic science, a science of personal expansion and liberation.
The name Tantra itself is a huge clue. It actually has a twofold meaning. So part one comes from the root tam, which means staticity or inertia, basically being stuck. So Tantra is the science that liberates you from that bondage, from that dullness. Then you've got the root tan, which means to expand. Put them together and you get it. Tantra is the practical process that leads to your own expansion and ultimately your emancipation. It's all about liberation through expansion. Pretty cool, huh?
So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you achieve this expansion? Well, it's definitely not by hiding from the world or avoiding your problems. No way. Tantra says you've got to dive right in. You have to engage with the world, face down your challenges, and learn to master even the most hostile environments. It's a path of total engagement, not some kind of a retreat. And this is where you can see a really clear difference between Tantric ideals and some of the older Vedic ideals. You see, where some traditions might have focused on things like your family line or carefully avoiding tough situations, Tantra is all about your individual vigor, your personality. It's a science of sadhana, which just means practical spiritual effort. It's about you mastering your world through your own inner strength. It doesn't matter who your parents were.
All right, so that's the philosophy. But how does it actually work in practice? Well, Tantra lays out a really clear, structured journey for the practitioner, the sadhaka. It's a path with very distinct stages of development.
Okay, so this journey basically has three main stages. Think of it like a progression. First, you've got the Shakti stage. This is the path of the warrior. At this point, you're actively fighting against everything holding you back, both inside and out. The goal is to build up incredible strength and courage. Then, once you've become that ideal warrior, you move to the Vaishnava stage, the path of the devotee. Now you start to see the divine play in everything and can blissfully surrender to the cosmic flow. And finally, there's the Shiva stage, the path of the sage. This is the ultimate merger, where your individual mind is just completely surrendered to the Supreme.
I mean, listen to this. This just captures the whole spirit of that first stage, the warrior stage, perfectly. It's not about praying, "Oh, please save me from danger." It's about saying, "Bless me so that I can overcome the danger." See the difference? This stage is all about radical self-empowerment. So, once you've built up all that inner strength as a warrior, you can move into that devotee stage without any fear. You start to see everything, the good, the bad, the happy, the sad, as just part of this incredible cosmic dance. And it's that blissful acceptance that gets you ready for the final act, the Shiva stage, that ultimate surrender, where the line between you and the cosmos just dissolves.
Okay, so this path is obviously incredibly profound, but this is where things can get a little tricky. Tantra is probably one of the most misunderstood philosophies out there, mainly because its really subtle truths have been interpreted in some, well, pretty crude ways. So let's just tackle one of the biggest myths head on, shall we?
So much of the confusion comes down to this one thing, the Panchamakara,
better known as the 5 M's. You'll hear critics point to these practices and say, see, it's all just debauchery. But what they're doing is taking a very crude, very literal interpretation and completely missing the much deeper, symbolic, and frankly beautiful yogic truth underneath.
So these practices are called the makaras. Now, there are 5 of them in total, but for right now, we're going to unpack the 4 that get twisted the most, so we can see what they're really all about.
First up is madhya, which translates to wine. Now, the crude take on this is obvious. It's about drinking booze, but for a tantric yogi, no. Madhya is that feeling of divine intoxication, that overwhelming spiritual bliss you get from being in intense love and deep meditation with the supreme consciousness. It's an internal experience, not something you drink from a bottle.
Okay, next we have mamsa, or meat. Again, the literal interpretation is eating animal flesh. But the subtle yogic truth, it has absolutely nothing to do with your diet. This is a clever one. Mam refers to the tongue, the thing that gives us speech. So the real practice here is to eat your words, to control what comes out of your mouth. It's about achieving complete mastery over your speech.
Then there's muvra. On a very surface level, this can mean things like parched grains, but the deep, profound meaning is all about who you hang out with. You know the saying, you are the company you keep? Well, that's this. The idea is that bad company leads you to bondage, but good company helps set you free. So the real practice of muvra is to consciously choose your circle, to avoid the negative and seek out the positive.
And finally, we get to mathuna, or union. This is without a doubt the most misunderstood of them all. The crude interpretation is all about physical, sexual union, but the real yogic meaning is something else entirely. It's completely internal. It refers to the practice of raising that dormant spiritual energy, the Kulakun, which lies at the base of the spine, all the way up to the crown of your head, uniting it with Shiva, the supreme consciousness. It's the ultimate spiritual merger, happening right inside of you.
So, when you put all this together, the warrior, the devotee, the sage, the real meaning of the 5 M's, where does it all lead? What's the final goal? Well, this brings us to the culmination of the entire tantric journey.
The ultimate aim of every single tantric practice is something called samyoga, which just means unification. This is that state where the individual self, your own little spark of consciousness, merges completely with the supreme consciousness. You know that beautiful idea of a single drop of water returning to the ocean? That's it. It loses its separate identity and just becomes one with the vast, incredible whole. And there's this absolutely beautiful line from a tantric prayer that just perfectly captures this final feeling of surrender. The practitioner isn't fighting alone anymore. They're taking shelter in the Supreme, trusting it like a great ship to carry them safely across the vast ocean of existence, all the way to their final home.
So where do you find this ultimate truth, this essence of everything? Well, Shiva himself gives a pretty mind-blowing answer. He says it's nihitam guhayam, hidden in the guha. Now, guha can mean a cave, sure, but its deeper, more mystical meaning is the I feeling. So what he's saying is, the ultimate reality isn't out there somewhere in a book or a temple. It's hidden right inside your own sense of self.
And really, that's what the entire path of Tantra is all about. From that first step as a warrior to the final merger as a sage. It's all just one big journey inward to find that hidden truth. So the final question I want to leave you with isn't really about Tantra at all. It's about you. If the greatest secret in the entire universe is literally waiting inside of you, where will your journey begin?